Welcome to Action Answers Episode 4. Today we're in Traverse City and we're going to be talking about what you need to be Coast Guard approved out on the water. Now before we begin, these are just guidelines that we're going to talk about. Always refer to the Handbook of Michigan Boating Laws and Regulations, and we want to hear your experiences out on the water so we can learn about safety checks together. That's super important. But to dive in, I got Brett Dempsey with me, who's going to talk about what we need to be Coast Guard approved. So Brett, tell me a little bit about yourself, your history with boating and all of that.
So I've been a lifelong boater. I grew up down the greater Grand Rapids area. I've lived in Traverse City now since 2011. It's just always been a passion of mine, a big part of my life. Always primarily been into water sports, and so I'm pretty comfortable around the boats.
Good. That's awesome. Well, I think we both can agree that boating is one of the most stress-free experiences that you can have. It's peaceful until you get pulled over and with a safety check. So whether that's the sheriff, the DNR, the Coast Guard, these are pretty standard. Whether you're a new boater or you're experienced, they're going to pull you over. So some of the things that you need to pass this safety check can vary. So let's go over some of the key features. I think one of them is going to be the registration.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So what do you need for that?
Yeah, first and foremost, anytime you buy a boat, just like buying a car, you're going to have registration. And so that registration needs to be displayed on the bow of your boat, just like you have a license plate on your car. So there are specific requirements around what those numbers need to look like. They need to be 3 inches, block letters, they need to contrast to the hull. There's certain spacing requirements. And then you also get a registration sticker, just like in the corner of your license plate, that slaps on the bow as well after the letters.
Okay.
And that updates every 3 years. So unlike your car that you re-register every year, your boat you would register every 3 years.
Okay. And just like your car, you need a hard copy in the boat as well.
Yeah,
when
correct.
You get pulled over, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay. The next thing is they call it a visual distress signal. So what do you need to pass that part of the safety inspection?
So if there's an emergency of some sort, you need a way to be able to alert other boats in the area that you're in trouble. So you can call for help.
Okay.
It's different on federally regulated waters like the Great Lakes or the ocean. There you actually have to have some sort of signal, like a flare kit, for instance. On inland waterways, like some of the smaller local lakes here in Traverse City, it's a little bit easier to signal people on shore or boats. Everything's closer.
So
you
you don't
have to worry about flares there.
Okay.
So, but if you are out on the Great Lakes, you're on Lake Michigan, you do need to have something like a flare kit. But one thing to keep in mind is they do expire. So you need to keep an eye on that.
Okay. The next thing as far as the safety check goes, they're going to ask you about life jackets or personal flotation devices. And I think a key part about that is making sure you have the right type.
Correct.
And here at Action, we're going to sell Coast Guard approved life vests as well as competition vests. So could you pass your safety inspection if you're wearing a comp vest?
No, those don't qualify. You need to have a Coast Guard approved life jacket. And there are several different types. You can learn about that in the handbook or online. And one of the first questions I've always been asked when I get pulled over is, how many people are on board? Do you have adequate life jackets? And also, what's the capacity of the boat? They want to make sure you're not over capacity. But every person on board, child and adult, needs to have a Coast Guard approved life jacket, not necessarily on them that they're wearing, but they need to have one specifically for them.
Okay.
I believe if you're under the age of 6, you do actually have to be wearing a certain type of Coast Guard approved life jacket as well, at all times.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. So the next thing they're going to ask you about, and I've been asked this too, is about a fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
So do you need a fire extinguisher? I guess, how does that all work?
Yeah, you definitely need a fire extinguisher. And again, there's a lot of regulations to it, but in a nutshell, if you've got a boat with a motor and a gas tank, you pretty much odds are you need a fire extinguisher on board.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and you really need to have it in a place that's accessible. You don't want it stuffed under, a seat that you forget about it, you can't find it, it's under towels, gear. It needs to be somewhere that's quickly accessible.
Right. Okay. I think lastly, I'm just trying to think of the times I've been in safety checks. The last thing I've been asked about is a sound producing device.
Yep.
So what do you need for that?
Well, most boats now, especially the ones that we sell, are equipped with horns. But not all boats do. Smaller dinghies might not have a horn on board. And a horn, I'm talking just like in your car. You can hit the horn. Usually there's a button on the dash. But If the horn doesn't work or you don't have a horn,
Yep, you got
can
an
use
older boat.
an older boat. You can
Yep.
use a whistle, certain types of whistles, or we also sell air horns, just the little canisters for $5 or $10, and those are really loud. That works as well.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks, Brett.
Yeah,
Appreciate it, man.
absolutely. My pleasure.
Hopefully you guys have a great time out on the water and you feel better about safety checks. Thanks so much for watching. We want to leave you guys with a few things. First, for quick reference, actionwater.com/Coast Guard approved. That has all the information you're going to need to pass your safety inspection. So always refer to that. The Coast Guard app is a great resource as well. And then obviously the Handbook of Michigan Boating Laws and Regulations. Make sure to follow us on social media for the latest content. Ask any questions you want. We'll try and get to them. But until then, have a safe summer, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.